Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam Live. ASK is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. My name is Adam, and the show is live. Always Seek Knowledge is a term I feel like I've created, coined, put into existence, if you will, through just my constant asking of why, always understanding, no matter what I did, whether it was working in a factory, whether it was sales, consulting, and even now speaking and coaching and helping people through their life is simply just asking and always seeking just more understanding, more knowledge, more insight. What is it that makes things tick, if you will? And I've had several people come to me and ask me about my speaking career and how it has changed their life and how they feel compelled to be a speaker and be in this realm. And so this episode is for you: how to connect and captivate. See, you don't need a perfect speech, you just need a real connection. It was Maya Angelou who said, "People may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." See, this isn't about memorizing lines, it's about mastering energy, presence, and connection. You know, one of the things I've found since, gosh, the early age of 8, when I realized speaking was the place I wanted to be, it was the place that gave me the most energy. It was strange that it never really set completely in until 40 years later that this was something that I wanted to do, something that I should be doing, something that I knew was natural for me to do, and that was speaking. I remember being on my first stage, and I wasn't nervous. I was excited. I saw the audience, and it was like a roller coaster ride. And it wasn't being afraid. It was like I wanted the next barrel roll or the next gravity drop or whatever it was that was going to come next. I wanted to feel that excitement and energy. And I remember it started, well, quite frankly, it started in a rearranged living room that felt like an auditorium. And I created my own podium out of some wood scraps that I found, and I presented. Then I found myself traveling with my mother. She enjoyed evangelism, I guess is the best way to place that. And so she traveled to many of the retreats and to many churches in the east, southeast part of America, and listening to different speakers and supporting other individuals and really following, if you will, people. And if they were going to be a guest speaker at a certain church, that she found herself wanting to go there and find some lodging and see the speaker that day and then make a pilgrimage back home. That being said, kind of growing up a little bit in that world, I found myself with extra time. I found myself before the event or even after the event on stage, looking out and seeing the audience and not being nervous. However, sometimes the audience wasn't there. I still saw them there. I still felt my presence belonged at that podium. And I would just start saying a speech with no paper, no outline, no idea, honestly, what I was talking about, but I was going through the process. I believe that was some of the younger training in my life that put me in the position I am today, where I do present, where I do challenge people, where I do, and if you've seen me, you see what I do. But it took a little bit of soul searching for me to find that. It took a little bit of hardship and heartache and just the school of hard knocks. I almost want to say it was that extra level of procrastination because I avoided something on such an extreme level that it almost had to hit me sideways in order for me to get my attention. And now I'm doing it, and it's the most exciting thing I've should have done, I will say, in my life. And again, it's about connection. I learned the secret of connection and perfection through other fields. So I can't say that it was necessarily true distractions that kept me away from my true calling, my soul's purpose, as you've heard me speak about. Those were all previous experiences that brought me to the point I'm at today to make me the best that I am. I'm going to share with you in this episode a little bit of inside baseball. I'm not going to go too deep into it because it is almost a 4-week course teaching that I can share with you if you really want to become an effective speaker. But we're just going to touch on a few things just to let you know this isn't just something you do, it's something that you learn, it's something that you practice, and it's something that, well, even though I think I'm pretty good at it, and many of my audience will say I am, I'm still practicing. I'm still experimenting. I'm still learning. I'm still being innovative. And I think that's what helps me bring value not only to the stage, but to those that come see me, those that I am invited to go participate with, those that want to hear the message I present. That being said, I promise you'll learn how to speak powerfully with authenticity, captivate any room, and create lasting emotional impact. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Now, part of the distinction of the shift from speaking to presenting is that speaking is talking at people. Presenting, now that's entering their world and guiding them somewhere better. You see the difference? Let me repeat that. Speaking is talking to people. Presenting is entering their world and guiding them somewhere better. Are you ready? Let's jump in. At first, the thing I like to practice is what's called the ALASA formula or method. And first of all, that's kind of to identify who it is I'm speaking to, what's the group, and understand a little bit about them. That way, through that understanding, I speak with them in logic, in terms they understand. Remember, I also want to guide them a little bit. So I'm going to find out maybe where their weakness is, right? Just like any prized fighter, you kind of want to watch the previous film or the previous fight that that individual was in to kind of see what's their favorable move. Is it always right? Is it always left? When they step back, what's their next thing? You know, so many things are repetitious. It's almost like looking at the game film on Mondays, you know, after Sunday football, and you see what the other team did, and you're like, wow, they did that the other week too, and they did that when they played this team, and they did that when they played us, and we played them again and they did it, and we keep falling for the same plays that they get past us. So by kind of understanding a little bit of the, dare I term, the weakness point of the team, of the boxer, the fighter, I'm going to kind of beat you up on that. I'm going to tell you about your wrongs. You've been at my events, you know I can be a little harsh, and I'm going to be very upfront, and I'm going to be blunt. And again, it's to feel that emotion, to make you feel a little like uncomfortable, because uncomfortable is what creates change. And then I provide this awesome thing called a solution, that there is something else, there is different. And then I'm going to provide to you an action step. Does all of this sound familiar? It's quite frankly what I put in all of my podcasts. I identify a situation. I give you some logic. Maybe it's a story or something that you can understand. It's me in that place. I'm going to beat you up and let you know that what you've been doing isn't working. Going to remind you of that. And then I'm going to give you a solution. And I'm either going to give you an action step and or a worksheet to work on with yourself, or both. Now, I mentioned that I use the attack and the confess. Some of this is to help drop your defense, because I don't want you to put up a barrier and say, oh, he's already on me, I'm not going to listen to this. Part of the reason I'm able to tell people so many of the things that I know, again, is because I've spent my life always seeking knowledge. And so I know these things. And not only have I learned about them through reading about them, studying about them, it's also experiencing them, because I was frustrated at not knowing why things were happening to me until I learned that they were actually happening for me. So this isn't from a high pedestal that I share this information with you. It's because I've been there and I know and I understand. And I want to share with you just this little nugget of almost in every episode so that it triggers or moves you to seek knowledge. See, energy is everything. It's not just what you say. 55% of communication is the psychology, physiology, and 38% is voice tone. You realize that only 7% is the words that we say? So again, I go back to a majority of this, even the other two combined still don't match the physiology, which is the most effective form of communication. If you'll notice many times when I am on stage, it's that I'm moving my body first. I stand there with confidence, even before the words begin. I use some dramatic speech. I pivot, I pause, I question, I raise my voice, I lower my voice. I remember a time where the room got so quiet, you could feel the energy of the audience. It was almost it was almost like I was collectively, and it was funny, I didn't realize it at the time that I, the moment, because I feel the energy in the room and I know kind of where the pivot is, where the, when to get excited, when to bring it back, when to maybe create that slightly uncomfortable energy, because I want, again, at the end of the day, I want you to leave with that moment in your heart to say, I'm going to go do something different, whatever that is in your life. Whether it's to change your career, whether it's to accelerate your career. Yes, as a dynamic life strategist, I am all about helping people because I know I've had to help myself and I know what it's like. So, coming from self experience, I want to share with others at least to knock off 10% of the learning curve and allow you to accelerate through your life, to do the thing you always wanted to do and just haven't done it. I'm going to ask you the question of why. But I remember this time I was on stage and there was a pause. And I held that pause a little longer than I probably should have. But I kept feeling the energy of the uncomfortableness in the room. And it was almost like I wanted one more. Like I didn't quite have the entirety of the room quite there. And I waited. And I remember somebody came to me afterwards and they were like, we weren't sure what was happening. We were starting to get concerned that you didn't speak, that you froze, that something, an emergency event was going on. People were starting to feel slightly embarrassed that maybe you didn't know what the next thing was you were going to say, almost stroke-like, if you will. And I just remember that moment that it was like I wanted to get everyone involved. Like I didn't quite have everyone with me. And if you've ever been on some level of an adventure, on a hike, a nature walk, I remember one of the things I like to do is Jeep trail riding with my Jeep. And the rule is you stay close to, stay in eyesight of the person in front of you and check your mirror for the person behind you. And if you lose sight of the person behind you, you stop. And that triggers the person in front of you to not see you and they stop. And therefore, it's a chain reaction to let the person in the front know we have an issue, somebody's not following. It works quite effectively. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's kind of the buddy system. And so when I hold my events, it's that buddy system is that you come to my event, you come to participate. I want you all in. I want you participating. I want you to be part of it. And I'm pretty frank and pretty honest to say if you're not here to change your life, we'll refund and you can go back. Because I don't like lack of participation. I've never been a fan of just doing something to get out of the house. I am a big fan of doing something because you feel moved and you just need to get moved a little more. Again, so that being said, that was a moment where I created a little bit more panic and my advisor kind of told me that I shouldn't do that on a regular basis to create such a stir, but I was just like, I really was at peace and at a moment of just making sure the group was all together, sort of like a buddy check and just going down the roll call and okay, everybody's here, everybody's here. Okay, we're waiting on one more. Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. There they are. And I continued. And I tell you, it was really moving. It was really exciting. It was, yeah, I think everybody, uh, it was a good event. It was really cool. You want to be able to connect, and that's what I think I do right off the gate is connect. And then, I'm going to get deep in the woods, and part of that connection is the mirror effect. People like when I remind them of themselves, that I remind them that I'm where you were and you can be where I am through the shared stories and the expression, the tempo and the matching of energy. Instead of telling, I always start with a question. I always invite, the show of hands or a nod and invite people to see who's next to them, who's around them, because they're going to be their buddy. They're going to be their confidant. They're going to be someone who's going to nudge them and go, yep, that's me, and vice versa. So you want to know who that person is at the beginning. And yeah, I always have stories. There's always some relevant story relating to something because I feel like I've experienced so much in my life. And it's part of what I'm supposed to do. It's part of my practice, part of my soul's purpose. So sharing stories with you and the events that go on and the excitement and the pain from both of them, I think is what everyone enjoys. How I put the three keys of the fall, the fire, and the finish all together. You also want to captivate with certainty and emotion. I find myself, well, I feel like I've done it several times. So, and I still, it's like each event is more rehearsing. I never found myself memorizing. I practice with joy and with movement and rehearsal. Well, that just encodes the certainty that I have. That's part of the confidence I have on the stage, is because, quite frankly, I've done it so many times. I don't think I've done it enough, but I've done it. I also have, and I'll share with you a little bit of a, well, before I go on stage, I say to myself ceremoniously that I want to engage with everyone in the room, whether they know what they came there to do or not. I, I guess I should summarize this because it's kind of long-winded, but it's that I want to make sure and engage with everyone that's in the room, whether they came or not. That I want a positive flow and energy in the room. That I want people to leave with some level of action in their life, and that I want my words not only heard but felt. That I want that to subconsciously become part of their spirit, to ignite something that instills with them that just needs some level of action. Now, that may sound a little hokey to people, but it's part of my positive flow and it's part of my positive energy that before I get out there in front of the crowd and you, is that I recite my incantation. And I think that sets the mood each and every time for what it is I'm going to say and how I'm going to speak and what it is I want to convey. Studies show that speakers perceived as passionate are seen 40% more competent, even if they make factual errors. That was a study from the Harvard Business Review. I feel like I bring passion to the stage. So remember, you want to speak to connect, not speak to impress. You want to master your energy, then shape your message. And it's rehearsal, plus the realness that, quite frankly, equals the resonance, how people receive you. So I invite you, if you're not doing something else while listening to this episode, write down your story of the fall, a real vulnerable moment. Rehearse it this week, not to memorize, but to own it. Share your insights or speech snippets at Ask Adam Live using hashtag #SpeakWithSoul for a feature. If you already have what it takes to move people, you just need to remember who you are when no one's watching and bring that to the mic. If you would like to learn how to be more of a better speaker, a public speaker, and you have a message that you feel people need to know about, I look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to share at askadamlive@gmail.com. And if this isn't something for you, well, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you know someone that might benefit from this episode, click like or subscribe and share. And remember, this isn't for everyone. But if you feel that calling to do something like this, or a calling of any kind, I implore you to take action, to take the next step, to look for other episodes that might resonate with what it is that you're looking to do in your life, to always seek knowledge in that field, and to do what you're truly designed to do. Now let us all go out and make it a great day.